Man, I got to be real with you. I was completely wrong about Islam, and I don't mean like kind of misunderstood. I mean dead wrong. Everything I thought, everything I assumed, every damn thing I joked about was based on headlines, not real humans, not conversations, not truth. You ever get hit with something so real it stops you cold? That's what happened to me. I sat down with people who live this faith, people who've been through fire, people with discipline, strength, values that would shock you. And I'm like, wait, hold up. This is not what they told me. And that's the thing, man. We've been fed fear, not knowledge. We've been told stories, but we've never listened. Islam is not what the media screams. It's not the thing in the background of war zones. It's not some threat in the dark. It's a code, it's honor, it's peace, and it's way deeper than most people will ever take the time to understand. I used to laugh at it, avoid it, or just ignore it, and now I feel like an idiot for not opening my mind sooner, so yeah. This one's gonna sting a little, it's gonna flip some switches, but if you've got the balls to really listen, I promise, it might change your whole perspective. The media machine lied. And it's not just about Islam. It lies about people, about cultures, about lives you've never lived, countries you've never walked, hearts you've never spoken to. It wraps fear in drama and sells it to you as truth. And I bought it, just like millions of people do every day. You wake up, scroll your feed, catch the headlines, and without even realizing it, your brain starts building this story. A story about who the bad guys are, about who's dangerous, about what you should stay away from. And man, it's not even your story. It's theirs, scripted, edited, pumped full of adrenaline, so you'll keep watching, keep clicking, keep reacting. It hit me one day when I was talking to this guy, normal dude, humble, calm, with a crazy powerful presence. He told me he was Muslim, and I swear to you, my brain glitched for a second because I didn't know what to say. Like there was this wall of assumptions just standing between me and him. And the crazy part, he wasn't doing anything. He was just sitting there being kind, being human. But in my head, that wall was built by years of news stories, action movie villains, and social media comments full of anger and ignorance. I was seeing him through a lens I didn't even choose. That's the poison, man. When the media tells the same one-sided story over and over, your brain accepts it as truth, not because it's familial, but because it's familiar. And then you stop questioning. You stop asking, and worse, you stop listening. But let me ask you this, how many times in your own life have people gotten you wrong? How many times have you been judged based on one bad moment, one rumor, one out of context screenshot? How many times have you wished someone would just talk to you, understand you, give you a damn chance? Now multiply that feeling by a billion. That's what's happening here. The media painted this entire belief system with one brush, and most of us didn't even blink. We just nodded, scrolled, moved on. But the truth doesn't fit in a 30-second clip. It doesn't scream at you from the screen. Truth whispers. It lives in long conversations, in eye contact, in quiet strength, in a cup of tea with someone you thought was your enemy, until they smiled, and you realized they're not the enemy. They never were. This whole machine we live in, it thrives on division. It wants you scared. It wants you angry. Because scared people buy, angry people click, confused people follow, but free thinkers, people who pause, who ask questions, who dig deeper, those are dangerous to the machine. So yeah, I was wrong. Not just about Islam. I was wrong for trusting the noise, wrong for letting fear shape my beliefs, wrong for thinking that what I saw on a screen was the full picture. You want to know real strength. It's not in throwing punches. It's in admitting you've been missiled. It's in standing in the mirror and saying, I didn't know better, but now I do. It's in walking away from the crowd and saying, I'm going to find out for myself. Because at the end of the day, the media sells stories. But truth is something you've got to seek with your own 2 feet. It's not in the script. It's in the silence between assumptions. And it's up to you whether you want to keep being fed or finally start thinking the discipline is insane. I mean, really think about that for a second. We live in a world where most people can't even go 2 hours without checking their phone, can't go a day without giving in to some craving, can't stick to a workout plan for more than a week without quitting. But then you meet someone who's living this lifestyle, someone who wakes up before dawn, washes up, prays in silence while the world sleeps, fasts all day while surrounded by temptations, lowers their gaze when everyone else is chasing lust, speaks truth even when it's easier to stay quiet, and holds back anger like a warrior controlling fire. It hits different. It's a kind of control most of us don't even understand. It's not just about religion. It's a mindset. It's power. I used to think discipline was about yelling louder, pushing harder, dominating others. But real discipline, it's invisible. It's silent. It's that voice in your head that says, not today. When your impulses are screaming, do it anyway. It's the ability to delay gratification, to hold the line, to choose the long road because the short one robs you of growth. And when I saw that in people who live by these values, not one day, not 1 month, but every single day, I realized I had it all backwards. We celebrate people who go to the gym consistently, and yeah, that's awesome. But imagine training your soul with the same intensity. Imagine waking up every morning and saying, I'm not going to let this world corrupt me today. I'm going to stay clean in my heart, in my mind, in my actions. That takes strength most of us never even aim for. We chase six packs and big arms, but how many of us train for integrity, for self-restraint, for inner peace? I met a guy who hadn't missed a single prayer in 10 years, not one. Rain or shine, joy or heartbreak, on the move or at home. He stopped his life 5 times a day to reconnect to purpose. And he didn't do it for likes, for followers, or for some viral clip. He did it for discipline, because it anchored him. And you could feel it when you talked to him. His energy was calm, grounded, like nothing could shake him. And I thought, man, we chase peace in therapy and meditation apps. And here's this guy who found it through something real and consistent, something that demanded effort, not escape. Look around. We're drowning in a culture of shortcuts. Everybody wants quick dopamine, fast success, instant validation. But the people living this discipline, they play the long game, and that's what makes them dangerous in the best way. Not dangerous like violent, dangerous like unshakable, dangerous like focused, dangerous like you can't bribe them with nonsense, can't lure them with distraction, can't break them with pressure. Discipline is rare now, and that's what makes it powerful. When you meet someone who's mastered it even just a little, you feel it. They don't need to talk loud, they don't need to flex. Their actions speak, their habits tell the story. And suddenly, you're forced to look at your own life and ask, where am I weak? Not in the gym, not on a scoreboard, but in your soul, in your attention span, in your reaction to stress, in your ability to do what's right when nobody's watching. That's the real test, and most of us are failing it without even realizing it. They treat guests and strangers like royalty, and I don't say that lightly in a world where people barely even look up from their phones when someone walks in, where we greet each other with half-hearted hellos and eyes still glued to screens. These people welcome you like you're a lost king coming home. And I'm not talking about once or twice. I'm talking about every single time. No agenda, no fakeness, no expecting something in return. Just genuine, heart-deep hospitality that catches you off guard and makes you rethink what kindness even looks like. I walked into a home once, barely knew the guy. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't polished. It was simple. But the warmth in that room hit me harder than anything. Within minutes, I had food on the table, tea in my hand, and a guy offering me the best seat in the house like I was some celebrity. And the wild part, I wasn't special. That's just how they are, and it made me think, when was the last time I treated a stranger like that? When was the last time I made someone feel seen, heard, respected, just for existing? There's a saying that's stuck in my head ever since: you can measure the soul of a culture by how it treats outsiders. And man, this culture blew me away. I've traveled, I've seen a lot, but this hit different. People who barely have enough for themselves still offering you their last piece of bread. People who don't know your name still calling you brother. People who haven't seen you before but act like they've been waiting for you all their life. It's not just manners. It's a mindset. It's like their hearts are trained to give. And think about how rare that is now. In modern life, we're all building walls, emotional walls, social walls, physical walls. We don't even want to make eye contact in elevators anymore. We're all so guarded, so isolated, so addicted to convenience that we forgot how to be human. But then you walk into a place where none of that matters, and they hand you water, offer you food, and sit with you like you matter. No small talk, no surface level vibes, just real presence. And that's healing. I remember this one guy We were in a small village, didn't speak the same language, but the way he looked at me, the way he served that cup of tea with both hands like it was sacred, the way he waited to make sure I took the first sip, it humbled me. Because we talk a lot about kindness in podcasts and motivational quotes, but this was different. This was action. This was soul, deep generosity. This was respect that didn't care about status or money or looks. It was built into the culture. It was lived, not preached. And the craziest part, they don't do it for applause. They do it because it's who they are. They believe that if someone comes to your door, even if you don't know them, they're your responsibility. Think about that. Someone rings your bell, and instead of suspicion, your first reaction is service. Not fear, not annoyance, but honor. Like, you chose my door, and that means something. It's a way of life that's so rare it almost feels unreal until you see it for yourself. And you start to wonder, what would the world look like if we all did that? What would your home feel like if the people around you felt that kind of love just for walking through your door? How different would your relationships be if you started treating strangers with the kind of dignity you usually reserve for your closest friends? It changes the game. It reminds you that greatness isn't just in strength or status. It's in how you treat someone who can do nothing for you. And that's something we all need to remember in a world that's forgotten what true connection really looks like. It's not just a religion, it's a code of life, and that's what blew my mind. See, most people think religion is just about belief. They think it's something you do on weekends, something you recite when things get tough, something old people cling to when they're afraid of dying. But when I started listening, really listening to people who live by this system, I realized this isn't about ritual. It's about rhythm. It's not about escaping life. It's about elevating how you live it every single day. This thing, it guides how you eat, how you talk, how you walk, how you treat your neighbors, how you handle money, how you handle anger, how you handle victory, how you handle failure. It's like someone handed you a manual not just for faith, but for character. And you know what's wild? It's not just rules, it's wisdom, timeless, deep, fire-tested wisdom that makes sense in a world that's constantly losing its moral compass. I met this guy who ran a small business, didn't cheat, didn't lie, didn't cut corners. When I asked him why, he didn't say it's because it's illegal or because he's afraid of being caught. He said, because my code doesn't allow me to take what's not mine even if no one's watching. Think about that. Most people only stay honest when there's a camera on them. But here's a man who holds the line even when he's alone because the code he follows doesn't change based on who's in the room. That's not religion. That's integrity on a level most of us haven't seen. And the beauty of this system, it's practical. It teaches you how to deal with ego, with greed, with jealousy, things every human struggles with. But instead of pretending those things don't exist, it acknowledges them, it confronts them head on. It gives you tools, real, raw tools. And it's not about being perfect, it's about striving, about constantly upgrading your internal software while the world tries to pull you into every possible distraction. We live in a world where people chase feelings, chase trends, wake up lost, scroll for meaning, fall asleep numb. But this code, it anchors you, it gives you a structure, 5 moments a day where you pause everything, your stress, your hustle, your ego, and realign, moments that remind you you're not the center of the universe, and that your time, your energy, your breath, they all matter. And when you start living like that, man, your whole vibe changes. I've seen people living with less money, less comfort, less luxury, but walking like kings. Not because of what they have, but because of what they stand on, a foundation that's rock solid. They don't need to show off, don't need to dominate the room, because their code keeps them grounded. They're not perfect, but they're present. They're not loud, but they're focused. And that's rare. You look around today and you see chaos, people breaking under pressure, relationships collapsing, mental health spiraling. And then you meet someone who's been through hell, but still smiles with calm in their eyes. Why? Because they're following a system that trains the soul, not just the body. And that's the piece we're missing in modern life. Not more stimulation, not more hacks, but more alignment, more principle, more clarity. It's not just belief in a higher power, it's belief in being better. It's a way to wake up with purpose, speak with intention, earn with honesty, eat with gratitude, forgive with strength. and sleep with peace. And when you witness that kind of alignment in action, you don't just respect it, you crave it. We fear what we don't understand. And that fear, man, it can rot your mind without you even noticing. It starts small, like a shadow in the corner of your thoughts, something unfamiliar, something outside your comfort zone. You hear a word, see a symbol, notice a piece of clothing or a name you don't recognize, and instead of curiosity, your brain defaults to caution. Then caution turns into assumption. And assumption, that becomes fear. It's sneaky, it's silent, and it happens to every single one of us. I'll be honest, I used to see something foreign and immediately my brain would start building a wall. Not a physical one, but an invisible barrier that said, don't trust this, don't go there, don't ask questions. And why? Not because of anything real, not because I had a bad experience, but because I didn't know. I didn't understand, and the human brain doesn't like uncertainty, so it replaces it with fear. And the media, the gossip, the echo chambers, they feed that fear like gasoline on fire. But the truth, fear is lazy. Fear doesn't take effort. It doesn't take wisdom. It just takes repetition. Fear says, believe what you're told, stay where you are, don't challenge the script. And most people live their entire lives like that, reacting to headlines, to images, to sound bites, never taking the time to look deeper, to listen longer. And that's where the danger begins, because when you fear what you don't understand, you build walls that block out potential friendship, potential knowledge, potential transformation. I remember meeting this guy for the first time, full beard, long robe, looked nothing like me. Everything about him screamed different. But the moment he opened his mouth, everything I thought I knew crumbled. He spoke with gentleness, wisdom, and a calm confidence that made me feel like the student in the room. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of what he might reveal about how wrong I'd been. Fear wasn't about him. It was about me protecting the fragile story I'd built in my head. And that's what happens when we never step outside our bubble. We become prisoners to a narrative we didn't even write. Imagine walking past a door every day of your life, never opening it, because someone once told you there's something dangerous behind it. Then one day you finally open it and you find peace, compassion, hospitality, depth, and you think to yourself, what else have I been wrong about? This is why we've got to stop letting fear be the compass. Fear will always point you toward comfort, toward the familiar, toward the echo of your own voice. But growth, understanding, those live on the other side, the people you fear today might be the people who could teach you the most. The culture you avoid might be the one that makes you better. The language that sounds strange could carry wisdom you've never heard before. When you look at the world through the lens of fear, everything looks like a threat. But when you switch that lens to curiosity, suddenly the unknown becomes a gift, a doorway, an invitation to evolve. And if you want to live a powerful life, you can't afford to be driven by ignorance. You've got to lean in, you've got to ask, listen, sit in rooms that challenge your worldview, hear stories that make you uncomfortable, and realize that maybe the fear wasn't truth. It was just silence where understanding should have been. And that silence can only be filled by courage, the courage to listen before you judge, to learn before you react, to explore before you reject. Truth doesn't care what side you're on, and that's the part most people can't handle. We're living in a world where everyone wants to be right, not real. People pick a side, plant their flag, and then twist every fact, every word, every moment just to defend that position. But truth doesn't shift for your opinion. It doesn't bend for your feelings. It doesn't take your side because you're louder or more popular or more comfortable. Truth just is, and it sits there quietly, patiently, waiting for you to stop talking long enough to actually see it. We're taught to see life like a debate. Two teams, two arguments, one winner, but real truth, it lives outside the game. It doesn't wear your colors. It doesn't chant your slogans. It just exists clean and sharp and indifferent to your agenda, and that's what makes it so powerful and so terrifying. Because if you really find it, you might have to admit you were wrong. And for most people, that's more painful than ignorance. I used to think I had the world figured out. Like I had my opinions, my worldview, my logic, and I defended it hard. Especially when it came to topics I didn't really understand, like Islam, like different cultures, like anything that didn't fit into my mental blueprint. But then I started having real conversations. not debates, not arguments, just sit downs heart to hearts with people who lived it. And I realized the truth wasn't on my side. It wasn't on their side either. It was just sitting in the middle, waiting to be seen. And man, that realization hit like a freight train. Think about it. How many times in your life have you argued your point so hard, not because you were sure you were right, but because you were too afraid to look dumb, too afraid to admit maybe, just maybe, someone else saw something you didn't? And how many moments of truth did you miss because you were too busy protecting your ego instead of opening your eyes? You see it every day. People arguing online, shouting over each other, canceling anyone who disagrees, building echo chambers just to hear their own beliefs bounce back. But truth doesn't echo, it cuts through, it exposes, and sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it shows you that the people you mocked were right, that the things you feared were misunderstood, that the stories you believed were incomplete. And the moment you allow that possibility, the possibility that you've been wrong, you grow. Truth doesn't come to the loudest, it comes to the most honest. It doesn't belong to your side of the story just because it feels good or matches your background or makes you look smart. It belongs to whoever's willing to humble themselves enough to admit they don't have all the answers. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not chasing truth. You're chasing comfort, and comfort doesn't change the world. I met a man who had every reason to hate people like me based on history, on media, on experience. But he didn't. He spoke truth without venom. He told me what I didn't want to hear, but what I needed to hear. And I didn't like it at first. I wanted to argue, defend my views. But then something in me paused. And I thought, what if he's not trying to win? What if he's just telling the truth? And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. Because when truth hits, it doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up raw and unfiltered and says, deal with me. And that's the moment you realize it was never about sides. It was always about courage. The courage to stop defending the lie that makes you feel safe and start embracing the truth that makes you better. So here we are. After everything I've seen, everything I've questioned, everything I've admitted, I can tell you this without hesitation. I was completely wrong, not just about Islam, but about how truth actually works, about how we, as people, choose the easy route of judgment over the hard path of understanding. And the craziest part, it wasn't a massive event or some dramatic twist that changed me. It was small moments, quiet conversations, raw presence, unshakable kindness, real discipline, values that don't scream, they whisper. And if you're too busy defending your ignorance, you'll never hear them. There's a world out there filled with people who are not trying to convert you, not trying to fight you, not trying to destroy your way of life. They're just trying to live with integrity, peace, and purpose. And the fact that we were made to fear that should bother you because it means someone somewhere benefits from our division. And you've got to ask yourself, are you going to be a puppet of fear or a student of truth? I used to think being strong meant sticking to your guns, no matter what. Now I realize real strength is in letting go of what no longer serves your growth. Real strength is sitting in front of someone who sees the world differently and saying, teach me. Real strength is walking into unknown spaces with open hands, not clenched fists. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good, because comfort is the enemy of transformation. You want to talk about discipline, about respect, about structure and identity and meaning. Look at the people you were told to fear. Look at how they walk, how they treat their elders, how they raise their kids, how they honor their word. They're not just following rules. They're building something ancient and powerful inside themselves. And maybe, just maybe, they have something to teach the rest of us. You want to be powerful in this life, then learn how to listen. Because the most dangerous man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything, the one who walks with calm, acts with clarity, and chooses peace over pride. That's the kind of energy this code of life cultivates, not fake peace, not weak silence, but deep, unshakable inner control. I used to speak before I understood. Now I pause, I ask, I observe, and I can say without shame, I was wrong. But I grew, and growth is never born from being right. It's born from admitting where you were blind and choosing to see. You know, there's a quote that says, the first step toward change is awareness. The second is acceptance. I became aware of how deep my ignorance ran. And then I accepted that maybe the people I feared had more light than I ever gave them credit for. Now, all that's left is alignment. You can't change the world unless you change the way you see it. And you can't change the way you see it until you change the way you listen. You want to be unforgettable. Then stand for something that's not trendy. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. Be the person who looks past the noise, the fear, the politics, and sees people, sees value, sees humanity. Don't follow the crowd. Lead your own mind. Break your own bias. Get uncomfortable. Walk into conversations with zero pride and full attention. Let go of what you were told. Embrace what you discover. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful transformation happens when you stop saying, I already know, and start saying, I'm ready to learn. So now I walk different. I talk different. Because I see different. Not because I'm better, but because I finally stopped lying to myself. And in that silence, in that humility, I found something real, something timeless, something worth standing for. As one voice once said, don't fear the unknown, fear staying the same forever.